It's officially spooky season, and although the weather hasn't quite cooled off in LA yet, we're bringing to all of the Halloween vibes with this new episode. My guests this week are Tammie and Brice from the Hollyweird Paranormal podcast. With nearly 120 episodes focusing on Hollywood true crime and the paranormal, Tammie and Brice not only have the best ghost stories, but they're hilarious to chat with. In addition to their podcast, they have even more paranormal content on their TikTok with nearly 400,000 followers. They've also been featured on the Travel Channel as well as Ghost Adventures. What I love most about their work is the wide range of locations that they cover and their ability to bring light and share the stories of many places that have been forgotten or never actually explored. More recently, Tammie and Brice have been on the front lines in effort to stop the demolition of Marilyn Monroe's former Brentwood home and currently raising money to preserve the historic Olvera Street in downtown Los Angeles. We cover so much in this episode, from their favorite haunted LA locations to how they interpret energy to their go-to pieces of equipment for an investigation, and so much more. In the show notes below, I linked their social media handles as well as the GoFundMe to help preserve historic Olvera Street. So please donate if you can. Hi, Tammie. Hi, Brice. How are you?
Hi.
Hello, we're doing very, very well. We're preparing. We're almost a week away from officially being October the 1st.
I don't know where September has to be. I don't know why it's in such a hurry, but it is bumping through.
It is.
So fast.
Yeah, you're going to blink and we're going to be already stressing about the costumes that we should have had a month ago because it's already
Really?
Halloween. Yeah.
Really.
Any updates? Do you guys have anything solidified?
As of right now, no.
So I just want to credit Hallmark because they have obviously run such a great campaign to get Valentine's to be as important in our society, because all of my friends are Scorpios. So not only is this Halloween season for me, but all my Valentine baby friends who are now born in October through the beginning of November, I have a birthday every day of the month.
Oh, that is too funny.
So I did the kind of a cop out. I went to Target. I'm gonna do other things as well, but I have my fallback baseline, this is my Halloween costume sweatshirt, worst case scenario. I've got a couple other ideas, but that one is on lock for just in case everything falls through.
Solid. It's always
Yeah.
good to plan ahead.
And it's on a Tuesday this year, so it's everyone is doing it all on the same weekend. All right, we gotta coordinate. This is too much.
Oh, I forgot that it is on a Tuesday.
Girl,
Oh,
October's gonna be chaos.
it will be. Everybody. The weekend before, everybody's going to be celebrating that Saturday and Sunday before, so be prepared.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you guys today. I have Tammie and Brice here from Hollyweird Paranormal. They've covered so much in terms of supernatural investigations, the paranormal, TikTok, in-person investigations, so much. And I want to just start from the beginning. Where did Hollyweird Paranormal begin?
Well, it started
In
with
a
the
basement.
Yes. Rice was a small town boy with dreams.
Truly.
I was aspiring to be a stylist, and I showed up on a doorstep in Hollywood with a steamer in my hand. That's what we know.
Basically, just watch Cats Don't Dance, and it's like that. It's just that whole, it's fine. No, Tammie and I used to work together at an acting school in Hollywood, and I am the worst employee ever. I will say that on record, loud and proud. So I would take breaks and just basically wander around the school and go chit chat with all the girlies that I like. So I talk with some people in costumes and the marketing department and the directors. I just kind of wander the school, and you just kind of chit chat about what's going on. And it was a pretty small school, so there's a lot of gossip, there's a lot of drama. And eventually it is also, it's a very famous Hollywood historical school and institution, and it's on the old Charlie Chaplin grounds and bungalows, so it is haunted and there's history. So you just kind of start chatting about those things. And Tim, I'm sure you know how it is, you start bringing up the weird spooky kinds of things. You kind of float it out to see how people are going to respond. Oh, are you cool? Or are you going to make fun of me? And then it kind of went from there.
Yeah, the ones who are either hell yeah or stay away from me. It's like very
Exactly.
that way.
Exactly. And that's pretty much where it started for both of us. And people would always like, I had workers that worked in the costume shop with me. It was like the costume shop was like the water cooler. We would gossip and even share ghost stories. And then our students and my student workers would catch wind. They would overhear and chime in, or they would just sit around and listen. And it's like by the time we were done talking, we just kind of look around. It was like this little audience of students, student workers around us, you know, just saying, "Oh, is that it? Oh, we're gonna have to come back tomorrow at the same time to do the same gossip and gab." Absolutely, but I mean, it also created a safe space for our students too at the time who were going through some pretty interesting experiences on these grounds. And that's pretty much where we thought, okay, let's do something with this. People love Hollywood, they love ghosts, and they love ghost stories.
And as you expanded, what have you found is kind of a common theme? Why is Hollywood so haunted, or Los Angeles, Southern California, this area? Have you guys come across?
Brice, take it away.
I mean, honestly, your journalistic spidey senses must be tingling, because that is like the question, in my opinion. Like, why Hollywood? And I think there's a very, there's a quote that's like, if you turn the country on its end and shook it out, all of the crazies would shake out to Los Angeles. And I believe that in the best and worst sense of that. Like, we've all seen the crazy dark sides of LA, but it's also the artists and the dreamers, and we all just kind of end up here. And I think there's sort of like this romanticized obsession with Hollywood. There always has been. I mean, it's sort of this weird little oasis town in a desert. It's not real. Like, they are selling a dream, and everyone wants a piece of it. So I think that's definitely the why of Hollywood, is that, like, as soon as you say I mean, you know how it is. As soon as you say some of these like locations and people are like, tell me everything. Marilyn, tell me everything. Jane Fonda, I said Jane Fonda because I'm gay. Jane Mansfield, like, tell me everything. Like, there's these like huge stories that we all kind of know and are like aware of, but then we really delve into them. Like, people just can't get enough, and we're right here
in the heart of everything.
Truly.
Come across, this is just kind of like a fun question, through your investigations and through everything, any energy epicenters in LA or portals or hotspots? Have you guys
yeah, the David Oman house is one of them. I mean, there's ley lines. There's ley lines around there. Like, I feel like a lot of it too has to do with a scientific explanation of EMF energy there, in a natural sense, not so much in a paranormal sense, because throughout our journey, we've learned more that EMF can do wonders or some harm to the brain, and it could actually cause hallucination, depending on how many milligauss are involved in that reading. And when it comes to David Oman, his house reading on the EMF scale was like 2,000 to 4,000 milligauss, when the original reading of a decent reading of an EMF measurement is 200 to 400. So it was like through the roof, through the scale. And even when my husband went there, he's a skeptic. He's like, I felt dizzy on this floor, but I feel like that's more to, what is it, the REM? I'm like, the EMF. Yes, that's.
It can be the REM too.
That is my husband, guys. So he's like, but I feel like, I'm sure that also can attract energy. Absolutely. It can attract so many things, but I don't think it's what people think it is. Like, oh, it's the ghost, the torn ghost of Sharon Tate and her baby and all the other victims that were a part of this horrific crime. It's so much more. Like, Benedict Canyon, where David is located, is filled with mysticism and many things that we can't explain.
And I think we always talk about that. Like, LA is such an interesting city because it's so new comparatively. Like, the modern version of LA, really like the post-war version of LA, is such a new city, but this area is not new. Like, there have been people here for thousands of years. So there's these weird little like layers of like energy, Tim, like you're saying, history. But because the entertainment industry is so transient, this city is very good at like glossing over and building on top of. But often what happens is that like when we go to these places or feel these things, you have to start thinking like, okay, what happened here? What is the land? What is the history of this location? What did it used to be before? Like when we were talking about when you were on our show, like what did the Beverly Hills Center used to be? It wasn't a mall in the 1600s. Like,
right.
I mean, maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe they were really advanced, but we just have to like start asking these questions because it all bubbles up through. Like we can pave over as much as we want, but the energy will not be denied.
Yeah, exactly what you said. And considering how small the timeline is for just it being developed, you know, having buildings and infrastructure here, most of the people that are here just don't seem to be like normal people living normal lives. A lot of big personalities, people who have these big wild dreams and aspirations. So there's so much energy there too.
Truly. We always felt that at the school because it's like I went there as a student and then worked there. So I was there for 8 years in total. After I was a student, they started doing like student housing on campus. They put like 200 actors in a room together and we're like, okay, like make it work. Like that energy alone bred so much chaos. Like
there was a ton of chaos.
Good luck. Like that is not, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of students that had, you know, they were dealing with a lot of mental health problems, being away from home, you know, doing this method of acting where it was like, I'm trying to step away from myself and, you know, trying to live the life of what, you know, so-and-so used to live. And it's like, I wouldn't do that, you know? And it's like, they're almost in a way like natural conduits, you know, they're channeling so much energy through their art and their form. And it did culminate something in those apartments / dorms. Yeah.
Did you believe that's still there today?
I believe it is. I know through one of my TikTok videos, someone even reached out and said, yeah, I've heard I go there recently. I'm in my second year and I stayed in the dorms for 1 year and we would hear stories of a shadow man. So that shadow man is still there and will always be there just as long as there's more people there to feed into his energy.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was, you know, it's very telling that like during COVID and through most institutions being virtual and shut down, there was not that much activity. And then, you know, a huge uptick once the students start coming back, and it sort of mirrors like what we're seeing at these other places. Like when you're not there to like kind of stir the pot, frankly, of energy of the paranormal, often it's just a reaction to the energy that they're being bombarded with as well, or the energy that we bring to a space, for example. So yeah, sort of seeing it like in a post-COVID era where they're like now back on campus, like, yeah, that checks out. Okay.
I could totally see that. When it comes to different investigations that you guys have been on, how do you interpret the energy? Is there a certain way that you sense it in your body? Do you consider yourself sensitive? And if so, in which ways have you guys had different experiences? Or does it vary?
For me, it varies. But I mean, like some of the best researchers and investigators have mentioned to me, like the legit ones, even like going back to Hans Holzer too, who's the godfather of paranormal research and investigation. Your body is your biggest tool, because when you have all these instruments in your hand, you're too busy giving those things energy that you're ignoring everything else around you, and you're not even absorbing whatever is out there is trying to communicate with you. But I was always told that is your biggest tool, is your body. And when you know that something's wrong or something's in the room with you, you listen to that. It's not like just like you're walking into a random room. You're walking into a room where there might have been some sort of incident or crime, something that has left a residue. But whatever is there can definitely awaken something inside of you. More like it's making you open yourself up to it than it opening itself up to you.
It's just that. Brice, would you say the same thing for you too?
Well, I think Tammie is much more in tune, or has like, what I will say is also has put in more work to be in tune. I don't know what my body's doing like 90% of the time. I'm like, I don't know. Like, this seems fine. Like, no, your leg is broken. Like, it's sticking out of your thigh. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, that's fine. So I would definitely balance with that. Like, we've been in many places where Tammie's like, oh, I'm feeling like this, and it corroborates with like a lot of people. And I just personally do not feel it like that. But it's just because I think, again, I'm kind of not super like, my body doesn't just process it that way, I think. But on our last investigation, we were kind of doing the Scooby-Doo, like, let's split up and kind of like wander around. And we were with our good friend Tanya, and her and I were just like chit-chatting. And there was like a device on the table between us. And I was like, look, if I like look into the dark for something, I'm never going to see it. People can point and be like, did you see that? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe. So her and I were just talking just about anything. And the energy that was happening around us, they might as well have been like tapping me on the shoulder and been like, hey, like, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Like, can you hear us? Can you see us? I was like, I can't like process that. So I'm just going to keep talking. But like we were feeling, first of all, the device on the table was like going crazy, and she was just like very sweetly just like nodding, like, see. I was like, yes, I see, thank you. But we were on a wooden stage, and we could like feel the pressure of like a body walking around us on stage. We were like hearing noises, and I mean, it's an old theater for sure, so like it's going to be settling all the time anyway. But I think for me, because I'm a bit more, I would say skeptical, but open.
Right.
I can never, like, if someone's like, do you see this? Like, even we've had such, like, our listeners are so amazing. I'm sure you know, like, this community is so incredible. And, like, they'll send pictures and be like, see, like, can you see it? And I'm like, I think I'm blind. I don't know if I see it or not. But it's not because I don't believe or don't want to necessarily. I don't know. So I think Tammie processes it. She's so good at being like, what am I feeling? What can I like, is the air on? Is there a car outside? Like, what can I, she approaches it so scientifically and trusts her gut so well. And I'm just kind of like along for the ride. I think. Like, it's a fun ride.
Because then you guys have a balance with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's what I always tell Brice. Like, he's such a good balance because he's coming in, you know, as an open-minded skeptic. You know, there's sometimes people that come in and it's like they have a bias of the location, and all of a sudden now they're feeling these things that they read in other blogs or seen in videos. Yes, I'm feeling the sharp pain in my chest, kind of like this person that was stabbed here, you know, 25, 50 years ago. And, you know, I've gone into places like, I don't kind of feel that, you know, and then it turns out like, well, the history of this place didn't show that this person was killed or stabbed in the chest. It was actually, you know, this that happened. So those are things that we also have to look into as well. But yeah, going back to reading energy and allowing your body to be open to it. Yes, I always like to meditate before going into a space and, you know, allow whatever's there to share with me what happened or to kind of pick up on what the building is telling me.
And when you guys are open, do you have any rituals or different things that you use in terms of protection? Whether it's like crystals or affirmations or any way to kind of cleanse yourself after an investigation?
Oh man, I've been told I go in raw. Like, absolutely. I mean, I think it's that it's like, oh, I need protection, but what are you protecting yourself from is the big question. It's this thing that I go back to of like, well, you know, do you believe in ghosts? Well, it's more of what ghosts are. What are ghosts? I think that is the discussion we need to have. If these are things that you fear and you feel like you need protection, then I feel like that's an invitation for something bad to happen. And I do, you know, I say my little prayer. I'm like, okay, just like, because I fear the living more than I fear the dead. I've had more crazy things happen to me on 1 or 2 investigations from the living than I have from whatever spectral being is around us or supposedly around us. But I always tell people, if you want to feel better, then go in with a positive intention. If you want to feel good, bring in whatever necklace, cross, or beads or anything that you feel will protect you. whatever makes you feel safe and comfortable. And always, go in there with an open mind and a positive thought. And then afterwards, do whatever ritual you feel is best. I always like to light my Palo Santo just to cleanse my own energy, to cleanse my own aura, and just to say thank you to my ancestors for always guiding me into the right spaces. So
perfect. I don't think there is, like you said, a set way. And I think it's up to one to kind of feel out what is right for them.
Yes.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in terms of like Ouija boards or things that you would advise against? Or for the most part, you're pretty much just open to anything as long as you're in control of your own.
Exactly. There's this weird Western mentality of demons and Ouija boards. And just now that has circulated all over the world, in my opinion. And, it's so funny. I saw this girl, I hate to say it, on YouTube talking down about the Ouija board. I used it when I was young and I had all these weird things happen to me. It was terrible. But then on another video, she goes on to use a phone app called the Necrophone to speak to whatever the dead is around her, whatever dead person is around her. And in the comments, I even mentioned, I was like, how is this different than using a Ouija board? It's still a divination tool. How is that different from using tarot cards? How is that different from using a pendulum? When you're asking the phone the same questions that you ask a Ouija board. Give me a sign of your presence. There you go. How is that different? So I don't think there's anything wrong or negative about using a Ouija board. I've used it several times and nothing bad has happened to me. I know other people have had some pretty negative experiences, but they've also had some pretty negative experiences using a Simon Says game. And for those of you that don't know, if you've seen the device, the REM pod, the REM pod is the same device that is used in a Simon Says game. The same lights that come out, the same sensors, it's the same mechanism in that device. So here we are again.
Yeah.
We really know what we're using, and do we know what we're really calling upon?
And yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is that I personally would not use a Ouija board, which is just my own history with it. I was raised very religiously, and there are still weird holdouts of satanic panic that logically as an adult, I'm like, yeah, it's probably fine, but I just don't want to deal with that. And more so often it's because people don't use them. They use them out of ignorance, I think. And again, I am not the person to be judging other people. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But I also don't go in and being like, I'm going to open this Ouija board and I'm going to open a demon portal and then I'm going to leave it open and peace out. And I think often, unfortunately, that's what happens, is people don't know what and how to use the devices that they are seeing, and the versions that we are seeing. Even your favorite, no shade, but even your favorite ghost hunting show, your favorite movie about exorcism or ghosts or whatever, at its core, it is entertainment. It is a show that is being produced. So what sells more? If the Ouija board levitates and lights on fire, that's good TV first. If you're then home alone in your basement, you're like, well, I can do that too. That ignorance and that did you close it? Did you use it? Did you protect yourself while using it? The ignorance of those things that we often run into is actually what I fear more. And we've been very lucky. We know the best people getting to be on your show. We just have gotten to meet such amazing people that I trust. I just wouldn't go into a random sorority house and be like, who's ready for the Ouija? No, that's just not for me.
Yeah.
Actually, that part sounds like fun because you'll see what happens.
I know. Can you imagine a paranormal
just
sorority
waving
or a fraternity?
Waving from the outside hey girls, good luck.
Do you ever find yourself reliant and overly dependent on coffee? Personally, I love myself some good caffeine, and it's always a yes to a second or third cup. So often when I drink it a few days straight, I find myself becoming almost addicted to the caffeine hit, not to mention the highs and lows, the crashes, and feeling so dehydrated. Well, recently I made the switch to Magic Mind, the world's first productivity drink. I get all of the amazing benefits of coffee that I love, plus so much more, without all the negative side effects. Magic Mind is a matcha-based energy shot infused with nootropics and adaptogens designed to crush procrastination, brain fog, and fatigue. It's scientifically designed with everything you could want and nothing you don't. And best of all, it's gluten-free, dairy-free, BPA-free, keto, paleo, and vegan-friendly, so it's crafted with everyone in mind. I've been taking it daily for the last 14 mornings, and not only has it improved my energy and focus, but it's become an essential part of my routine. It's packed full with antioxidants and key organic ingredients like lion's mane and ashwagandha that also help to reduce my stress and anxiety. And the best part is that if you're bad at remembering to reorder like me, a monthly subscription option is available with hassle-free delivery right to your door. If you'd like to try this and see the magic for yourself, I have a 20% off discount code for my listeners today. Just go to magicmind.com and use code TIMRODDY, that's one word, for an additional 20% off your purchase. You could say goodbye to those crashes and hello to better memory, focus, and concentration with Magic Mind. Do you guys have any favorite go-to equipment on an investigation besides your own senses?
Ooh, I love using my K2 tripwire. It's like a Christmas light string. It's a K2 meter, but it's in a wire form. And it's really cool because instead of using the small device to read the EMF or to communicate or do a session with whatever's there, you have this big tripwire where you can lay it in front of you, and it's right in front of you. It's pretty, clear as day. And especially if you go in a group, people can see if something manipulates it. But another thing too I love using is just a recorder. You just can bring a recorder. I would love to bring a tape recorder. That is something I would love to see if something is imprinted on that carbon tape of that cassette. And I've read some pretty good blogs about the differences between a digital and just one of these carbon based tape recorders, because people have actually captured some really interesting things on there. But just about any recorder would do, and then you're ready.
That's so cool. Would you use your phone, or you would just try to keep it OG with the...
I've actually captured a lot of crazy stuff on my phone just using the recorder there. I mean, your phone, especially an Apple phone, has a phenomenal 3D mic on it.
Brice, do you have a go-to any equipment that you would use?
I think I'm a very basic person. I think the recorder probably is I like being able to go back. But like I said, when I'm when we were at the East West Players Theater, I kind of was just observing. I felt like a deer, just looking around and waiting for what was going to happen.
The flashlight was his friend.
It's really oh no. But I like being able to anything that you can go back and kind of pour over, whether that's video or recorded sound. I think that's more the avenue that I appreciate, because again, it's I can kind of, when I'm in the moment, it's very difficult for me to process quick enough what's happening. But if you can kind of go back and be oh, I kind of remember, and here, and what was that, and kind of link your stories together and see what I think corroboration is one of the most important tools. I felt this. What did you feel? Does that feel?
Yeah.
It matches up with the history that we know. Those things to kind of check and balance yourself, I think, are my preferred. But I like everything. We've been on a couple the little spheres. These are adorable. I'm down for anything.
I know a lot of people love, whenever I go on investigations with other people, especially people that don't have a lot of tools, they always want to know what tools I have. They want the bells and whistles. And unfortunately, when it comes to doing legit paranormal investigations, all you do need is just a camera, a recorder, a flashlight, and maybe a K2 device, and you should be okay. There's one research.
Someone is coming into your house all the time and being can you talk into my phone? 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 Show me that you're here. Are you in my phone? This is my house. Get out. So I think there is an element of less is more.
Yes.
And all these devices are incredible, but some of these places, you everyone goes to the Roosevelt, and I love it. It's one of my favorite places in Hollywood. The history there, the architecture, the drinks are really good. It's incredible. Well, like, let's say whatever you actually believe. If Marilyn's ghost really does manifest there, I bet get the fuck out of my room. Sorry, we can swear out. I'm so sorry. But like at a certain point, like these people, they're just constantly like like whatever it ends up being. So I think yes, there are a lot of really cool tools that you can use. You don't have to if you don't
not
want,
a lot
or
of
you
people,
can't afford it.
Not a lot of people know how to use it properly.
Yeah.
Or can explain to me the specs of it. That's the worst part. Yeah, like when you go to a place like a Roosevelt or any place. I remember I went to, I can't remember the name of the hotel, but I remember seeing, oh yeah, it was, oh my God, where was it? It was somewhere in Louisville, Kentucky. Oh my God, I just it totally slipped my mind. But I remember like there were a group of people doing a tour there, and they had their K2s, and they were freaking out because the K2s were at red. And I said, guys, turn off your phones. And when they did, it stopped making all the lights because they had their phones on, then they were recording. And after I told them to turn off the phone, it stopped blinking. And they're like, oh man, like, why'd you have to go do that? I'm like, because like, this is not accurate. This is the way to do it.
Yeah, they would have thought the whole place was haunted when they
Their phones are haunted. That's what it was.
And look, the only reason I even bring that up is because not that if you have those things or want to get those things, like that's incredible. Like I want everyone to pursue their hobbies and their passions to the fullest degree, but don't let it keep you out. Like you're not being priced out, or like you're not serious enough just because you go with an open mind and open eyes. Like that's enough. Some of our favorite, we do like listener stories where they will, send their experiences and we'll talk about them. And some of the most incredible stories that we've been gifted with, frankly, from our listeners are people who were children, who were in the woods, who were not expecting or looking for.
Yes.
And they have full body apparitions, family members, and all these beautiful, scary, funny stories when they weren't necessarily like expecting them. So it's not a requirement. It is fun. The tools are fun, but
it's true.
It's a whole wide open world.
I think that's a huge part of it too. I feel like how Tammie kind of said before, it finds you. Just a lot of times you kind of have the perfect opportunity to go somewhere last minute, and maybe you don't have your equipment, and just kind of going in with an open mind. And things can happen.
Truly.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any favorite, and I know this is a very broad question, but any like favorite spots in LA or places that you it keeps calling you back time and time again?
Personally, I absolutely love going to like I want to go back to the East West Players Theater. I want to go back and research again. And I also want to go back to the Heritage Square. That's another place that I always find calls me, because I've had some pretty unique experiences, and I love the people that work there, and I love the history and the stories of those houses. But I would say the East West Players Theater and the Heritage Square.
And Tammie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were just on Ghost Adventures, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Do you want to Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I shot 2 episodes with them because I had experiences at the Barclay, and I had a huge experience at Heritage Square. So just to preface, our listeners for the longest time, notice how Ghost Adventures would kind of copy the places that we would cover on our podcast, because we like to talk about places that are off the beaten path. And I've had a lot of people recently reach out and say, hey, do you know the people of this place? Or what other places do you recommend that are not like, that are beyond the Queen Mary, the Roosevelt, and all these repetitive places that we heard about? And I'm like, yeah, because there's so much more outside of Hollywood. There's so many places like that are in Pomona, Riverside, and even here in the Valley. But yeah, I was invited to be on the show of Ghost Adventures for their Heritage Square episode because I had an experience in one of the houses there. It was one of those things where I was not looking for an experience. I was there to work. I knew that those houses had stories, but this was such a beast of a film. It was a horror film. It was a horror anthology, and we had rented the entire square for 2 weeks. And I was based out of the Hale house, which is the green, purple, multicolored house. For 2 weeks, I was in the second level, and no one is usually ever allowed on the second level. And for some reason, they had wardrobe there. And I had fun, of course, dressing up Jacob Elordi of Euphoria. He was in the movie, and he was such a freaking sweet, beautiful guy, complete skeptic, didn't believe in ghosts. He was like, I don't believe this place is haunted. Here's a knock. That's just the wind. But in an Aussie accent.
Right.
But when I was there, and I tell the story, they didn't put it on there, but I was working one night on the second level of the Hale house. I was sewing these pants, and they had to be ready the next morning. We were ready to shoot at 7 a.m. And this actor who had originally sent me his sizes from 20 years ago was not the size that he was of that day that I was trying to fit him in the pants. So I was like trying to add this gusset. It was like, it was insane. And I was there to work, right? I had my sewing machine facing the doorway, and I kept on hearing what sounded like running and laughter outside of the door. And I thought it was a PA, but I was like, no, they're in the octagon across from me. Like the whole team is there because they're trying to get the final shoot done. Like they were stressing in this house. And my assistant was there, and I mean, it was quiet in the square except for the octagon house. So I got up and I was like, is anyone there? No one answered. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna go back. Like my focus was to get this done. It was 11:30. I needed to go home and sleep whatever 5 or 6 hours we had, turn around. And once again, I could hear running. And then I'm texting my assistant. I'm like, hey, is someone in the Hale house? Did they need any help? And she's like, everyone's here. No one has left. And I said, okay. And I could see in the corner of my eye, I see this little head kind of like go like that, like peeking in and out of the doorway. And I'm like, what in the hell? And it was the height of a child. It reminded me of my niece and nephews whenever they would play hide and go seek with me when they were 7 or 8. And it just, the feeling that I got was precocious. That's the best word I could describe. Like whatever was there was playing with me, and it was precocious. And I just got up and I said, whatever's here, let me work. Like, I know that you exist.
Jacob Elordi will not wait for us.
Exactly. I was like,
it's too beautiful.
If you were, a child laborer back in the day, you could sew these pair of pants for me. You could do it. But in the meantime, like, you got to let me work. And it was just quiet. And then all of a sudden I got this feeling like whatever was out there was now in the room with me, watching me. And I was just like sewing this pants, just like, okay, like you could watch me. And I remember 2 days later, I was going through the second floor. We had a bit of a break, and something called me to one of the rooms. They had a couple of rooms closed, and they told us not to go in, which I respected. But I was like, something told me to go and open one of the doors. I opened one of the doors. It's a child's room, and there were no children from what my understanding was of the Hale house. I know there was a woman there. I think who was it, Lucy or Lizzie Hale, that lived there. Her presence is felt. But people have said, no, there's children and ghosts there. They've been known to run and laugh, and people have seen them and heard them. But when I went into this room, it was a children's room because a lot of people donate a lot of antiques to Heritage Square. So I think they're donating a lot of things with energy and a lot of things with attachments. I mean, there was a child's bike, a ton of children's dolls, clothing, books and shoes that looked worn. And even when I was there shooting the episode, I was speaking with the director of Heritage Square, and I told her my experience. She's like, oh, you saw those fuckers? Yes. They are fucking pain in my ass. When I'm trying to close, I hear them run on the second level. They're annoying. So I'm like, okay, so I wasn't going crazy. She's like, no, I know exactly what you went through. That's what people have seen and heard.
That's wild. She's like, yeah, same time every day.
But for people wondering, how was Zach Baggins? He was fine. He was actually pretty decent. He's in a zone. When he's in the zone, he's in the zone. He's the boss man. He only goes there, I think, from 6 to 11:30 to investigate. It's not an overnight. he leaves Aaron and Jay to do the rest of the work, to do the rest of the interviews. But for the most part, they were all pretty decent. They were all pretty nice. They all work really hard to get out of there by a certain time. And I loved Aaron very much because he was just a big teddy bear. He is a big conspiracy theorist. Like, we were talking about flat earthers, like how crazy their, thought processes are of the earth being flat. And of course, Bigfoot and extraterrestrials. Like, he was all about that life. So yeah, it was
the whole gamut.
Yeah, the whole gamut. But and Jay was really sweet and very quiet. And I spoke to Zach for a couple of minutes too. He was just really wanting to learn more about Heritage Square and such things that would happen there, especially the festivities of like what was it, Midsummer Scream, or the spectacular sales that they would have. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been on my list of places to go, but it never fit with the schedule. And I saw the one thing you posted and when you were going to be there, and it didn't work, but hopefully.
Yeah, we had our live show there, and it was amazing. And we had tours that followed after the show, so people can get experiences on their own. And I think some people did in the Octagon House.
And it's just a really cool place regardless. Like, it's very different, and doesn't feel like you're in LA, and
it doesn't.
Really cool.
No, it's really awesome. They do a good job.
That's awesome. Brice, do you have any favorite locations or a place that seems to just kind of pull you back?
Well, there's like this McDonald's down the street. No, I'm just kidding.
Me too.
Yeah, like those egg McMuffins are not going to eat themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because it's also one of our more recent ones. So it's like, do you just have like that as your favorite because it's so new? But the East West Players was really special. The history of that building, of that community, of the way that the community has kind of reclaimed quite a dark part of LA's history through the internment camps and the removal of Japanese families from that area, through that building specifically, to now turn it into a theater that's telling Asian American Pacific Islander stories as a way to talk about what happened, reclaim that history, reclaim that space. It's just really special what they're doing artistically there. That it just like really touched me. This isn't a huge theater town, obviously, so anyone that is doing those kinds of things, I just think it's really important work to like ground this city in reality and in history, even the parts that are like not great, frankly. So that one's definitely a good one. And then we did also have such like incredible experiences there with the paranormal, but just again, like the space is just like beautiful and historical and amazing.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that's like, again, it's like the most recent one, so I'm like, I loved it. Like, okay, we get it. You've been to Disney World like one time, like it's fine.
And that's awesome, especially with all of the theaters. Like you said, it's not a huge thing right now, but there is much history with all the abandoned theaters from downtown to Hollywood to, even off the beaten path that are like abandoned and have so much energy.
Oh, all theaters are haunted on God. Like it's just so much energy there, and there's a reason we all have ghost lights, and
we need to find a way to get into the Pacific Theater.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I want to go in there so bad.
Yes.
Please include me on your investigation. It's like,
yes, I know. If we ever get in, because we will put that energy out there. We'll bring you, Tim.
And that's one of the things I love most about you guys is just the authenticity and the engagement with the people that interact with you guys on your social media, TikTok, say, hey, check out this place that no one has ever investigated before, which is like the coolest thing. And then you come to realize that so many people have had experiences within those certain places. Like I was loving what you posted with the Walmart in the Valley.
Yes.
So cool. I actually was at that Walmart like 6. It was there and I was like, oh my God, how cool.
I know, you're haunted by their low prices and their spectacular haunted decor and for their Halloween.
And their door greeters, they are relentless.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, there is like I said before, we love to tackle these stories that, especially of places and even cities and locations that are off the beaten path. Like there is this beautiful camaraderie of people who are like these fans of their own cities. You know, when we talk about Riverside, when we talk about Pomona, and when we talk about San Fernando, there's so many people that come forward and they're like, yeah, thank you for representing my city. Yeah, thank you. Hell yeah, I remember going to that high school. Hell yeah, I know that Walmart in Panorama City. There's so many memories that people share with you growing up in these places, whether, you know, they're from the 60s to even now. It's really beautiful to have that, you know, shared on your page. That's what we're all about. It's just the shared experience.
That's awesome. And there's a lot of vulnerability there too, because
tons, yes.
One halfway and you ask them, they're meeting you being vulnerable. And they may not even have a direct experience, but I've noticed that they know someone who has had this experience in their house, and this person knows someone there. And it really just creates this genuine network of people who can connect with one another, which is awesome.
And that's the thing, is like ultimately everything comes down to community in life. And as silly as it sounds, like in death, like we are stories and we are the communities around us. Like that's really all we have. And so to watch as we explore these places, like that's the thing that we get the most out of, is like, oh, here's these people who are proud of where they are, proud of the stories of the heritage. I don't know. We're very lucky that people have been as generous as they have and continue to be with their stories, because that's like all we have in the end. Like everything else is sort of like doesn't matter, frankly.
Right. And even different guests that you've had on your podcast, I know that you covered a couple of different locations that I have never even heard anything about. Places being haunted, like in Burbank or the Miracle Mile. I don't know if you guys want to talk about just a little bit about either of those places or other places that maybe someone has never heard of being haunted before.
Oh yeah, there's so many places, and off of Miracle Mile, for example, glad you brought that up. That, I mean, people have claimed to have had like weird experiences, especially where is it? I think it's called the Gaylord Apartments. And then I remember when I was researching, and I told Brice, I was like, Brice, I'm going to share the story I found on Yelp in regards to these apartments, and it's a ghost story, and it even dates back to like the early 2000s. And this guy is like, I am not a believer of ghosts, first and foremost. I'm just this poor actor trying to make it here. And now I got to deal with this weird thing happening in my apartment. But here's my story. And I'm like, this is pure gold, you know? And if you think about it, early 2000s, that was just the birth of, you know, ghost adventures and ghost hunters. Maybe earlier than that, but that's when, you know, the paranormal was just just about to turn mainstream. You know what I mean? So for someone to go on there and share like this apartment is haunted, then I mean that says a lot.
Truly, yeah.
And like we said, like when it comes to Los Angeles, there's layers and layers of history. And when you think of Miracle Mile, you see all these new developments coming in because LA does this wonderful thing where it likes to bulldoze historical places and build some pretty unaffordable housing. And you know, I feel like a lot of that energy gets disrupted and it manifests in certain ways, but there's so many other places around there that have so many stories. Like, what is it? I think it's the Academy Museum, the Hollywood Academy Museum. And then you also have the Car Museum, pretty historical places that are now turned into museums or unaffordable apartments.
That's wild.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like some of, like I said earlier, like in Burbank, you had kind of mentioned, like when Tammie was getting, and she was just going about our lives, you know what I mean? Like she was getting a sewing machine repaired at a sewing machine shop. Like that's not a ghost hunt. And yet some of the most like intense stories from that area are like this shop and this guy that they knew that worked there that died one day. Like that's just a group of people. And like that's just a group of people working, living their lives together. And ultimately it did become like a ghost story because, like, you know, if you follow us on Instagram, there's maybe potentially pictures of him in Tammie's sunglasses, like in the reflection. And you know, they were talking about seeing him in the shop and his presence still being felt by his coworkers after he had passed. And like ultimately that's just like a group of people who knew this person, who are keeping his memory alive and honoring his spirit still being around there. Like, it's not always this big like look, I want to see The Nun as much as everybody, which is like crazy to me. I don't know why it looks so good to me, because normally I'm like, ooh, scary movie, no, but it looks so good. Like, but it's not always like that. It's not always like Patrick Wilson coming in and like looking beautiful and like solving your like 1,000-year-old murder crime. Like, that's not usually how it is. It's these stories just in.
But we could daydream about it, right?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to daydream about it. Come on. But, you know, it's these stories, just these little communities that are literally peppered throughout the city. So those, I think, have like such a special place. Yeah, you're not going to hear about these on like a huge investigation, because there's not that much. Like, there's a guy that worked at this shop and he still wants to be around his friends.
Exactly.
Really lovely.
That was a crazy story. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, that's when it looks for you, man. And at that time, I was doing a lot of investigations specifically at David Omen's house. So I'm trying to think and research more, like, when you enter a place that has a high level of EMF, are you like charge yourself? Like, are you becoming this big walking K2 meter yourself that attracts all these spirits? Because I remember, like, before that happened, I did 2 investigations in the same week at his house, and just feeling so drained and a bit dizzy, like the day after, kind of like a paranormal hangover. But I read and realized, oh, that's the after effects of high EMF.
And that's crazy, because a lot of times, at least myself, we would look externally at the conditions rather than what you may be experiencing physically.
Yes, exactly. And I think there's this podcast called The Lifestylists by Luke Story, and he had done some pretty in-depth episodes in regards to the studies of the hazardous effects of EMF. Wow. And how people have been affected living in places that have high levels and readings of it. It's been known to affect one's mind, one's ability, physical ability, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's pretty interesting to look into it a little more scientifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but a couple things I do want to touch on really quick. I love all the work that's being done to support the Marilyn Monroe house and Olvera Street, which I just saw. If you want to talk a little bit about that, and not only are you sharing stories of history and bringing people together with paranormal experiences, but also saving and preserving history too.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about it, and like our podcast has turned into like, and I'm so proud of this, like, and I want this whole city on fire, basically. Like, we're basically like a save the blank podcast now, because the city, it's massive. You just can't fully understand how big it is and like how unplanned this was. Like, this is not like now it is. Now it's one huge mega city, but originally it was like 9 separate cities that were connected by somewhat of the highway system is there. But this was never the plan. Like, this happened and everyone's like, oh shit, we should have planned for this. So the city does move very quickly, and there's a lot of bureaucratic machinery that happens. And we're in the middle of a housing crisis. Like, people, and it's everywhere. I know that it's not just LA, but we're watching it in LA, and it's really accelerated because the real estate market here is insane. Like, I literally don't even think you could find a house anywhere within the county that's like less than $1 million, unless you're just like so far out. And that sounds crazy, but that just is the way it is. And there's like these conglomerates that are just buying everything up. Like, it is very much like a machine just eating the Fern Gully forest. Like, and so it's this weird thing where like, wait, we need to like slow down. And with the Maryland house, with Olvera Street, like, these are places that are important and that make our city feel special. Like, nowhere else has these. We cannot just literally bulldoze them over or put in another like condo. Like, why are we doing this? And like, with the Maryland one, it was such a lovely experience because we found such an ally in the city councilor. And that was like an example of it working very quickly. That is the outlier, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Yes. history shouldn't be bulldozed or buried. And, it's a big message not only to the city and the people here, but it's also to other creators to do better. For all these creators showed up at the house doing videos, and it's like, I didn't see a call to action on your behalf until it benefited them. Now it's important that it's saved. And, what if it wasn't saved? And that is something too that we're trying to stress about Olvera Street. And that's something I wanted to talk about real quickly. We just covered an episode with Spooky Foodie because she is doing a very beautiful job. Ansley Lane.
She has boots on the ground for sure.
Yes, Ansley Lane. I think she's being guided by something there. And I told her, I think you're being guided by Christine Sterling, who was the one that had the vision for Olvera Street in the 30s. And then you have Consuelo Castillo de Bonzo, who was also part of her ally. And, they built that street. Two hardworking women. Yeah. Yes, one that knew how to use her white privilege. Unfortunately, yes, it was a white woman that helped bring the street and bring Mexican culture and heritage to Angelenos, to give them a taste of what was originally here in the city. Yeah. And, we're talking about the closure of La Golondrina, which is a Mexican cafe that's been around since the 30s. The place where it sits has been around for almost 200 years. And this is a place where this is like LA's first roots. This is a whole location where LA grew. And to see that being dwindled away by the city that wants to tear it down and turn this area into a gondola. They want to put some weird water structure and gondolas so they could transport people to and from the LA Dodger Stadium to this location, and put in some new restaurants, put in some new high-rise living situations there, and it's not going to look like it was. And that's not how it should be. The Gomez family are trying to raise money. I'm looking at the GoFundMe right now. I've been eyeing it all day, and I don't want to get so emotional, but it's at like close to $9,000. It's so great when people actually come together and help, because this is so important, and we have to work together to keep this stuff alive, because it's not going to be here anymore, to share the stories of those that are no longer here.
Thank you so much for using your platform and using your voice for these monumental changes. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And Ansley, I have to give it up to her. She really has been doing such a great job, and she's gone to the council meetings. She's gone to speak her piece for her 2 minutes that she has. And finally, I think it was Secret Los Angeles shared her video, and now we're finally having the LA in a Minute guy doing a piece on it finally. So it's we need more people to come forward and spread the word more.
And that's the thing is it's hard because like I said, we had just talked about the Marilyn Monroe mansion. So it's just you just feel like you're just being bombarded. And I get it. It is exhausting. I love the idea of resisting. You just don't have to let yourself get bowled over. You don't always have to be pushing, attacking, aggressing. It's exhausting. We also have to take care of ourselves. But once you know that these things are happening, you can't just close your eyes to it. And I think unfortunately the city is very good at that. I mean, we see it every year on a macro scale. Okay, it's time for award season. Let's cover everything with a carpet and and that this is how beautiful it always looks, and it's just not real. It's not real. And so I've been here for almost 14 years. We just aren't allowed to just close our eyes and let that happen without at least fighting and at least supporting these people who came before us and who are still trying to preserve what makes this city special. We just can't close our eyes to that. So again, Ainsley is so good at she found out about this was happening, and she's working so hard, and so once you can do better, and hopefully this momentum will continue, and hopefully the city will do the right thing. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is the city just needs to understand that they work for us, period.
Yeah. And I just want to share the GoFundMe link to help the Gomez family. If you go to GoFundMe.com, it's Help Us Beat the City of Los Angeles and Open. Or if you just write La Golondrina on the search engine, it will take you to this page. And they're trying to raise $20,000 for lawyers' fees. They just need 20 grand to pay their lawyer to help fight a good fight against the city, because they have a really good case and they could win and they could keep this place open and alive. So we can celebrate more anniversaries, more birthdays, more celebrations of Dia de los Muertos, more wins of our LA Dodgers. So, I mean, I've seen people go and celebrate those wins there all the time. And I remember going there after my first LA Dodger game too. So it's so memorable.
So many.
That's why I get so emo about it.
No, yeah.
But that's what it takes, honestly. Like I said, you guys are doing an amazing job, and hopefully the city wakes up and
really.
Yes.
So just to close it up, what's next for Hollyweird Paranormal? Where do you have any investigations planned? Anywhere you'd like to go? Or you don't have to share too much, but
right now, at the moment, no. I mean, Brice and myself have been involved in other personal projects and endeavors. It's kind of crazy because like this organic shift of our podcast occurred with the Marilyn Monroe house. It's like, well, we have a voice. Can we try to use it to, do a call to action? Let's not just talk about haunted places and these, places that are off the beaten path, but let's try to like help preserve them. Let's try to like work on this. And I think that that's something cool that we've been really working towards, is like, let's work with the city.
Totally.
And its ghosts, of course.
Yeah.
The Brice has been busy. I will brag. He's been doing wonderful with his theater company, The Dragonfly, and now he's going to be in a show called Rant, which will premiere in October. And
I always say like October. I was like, what's happening? It's so busy and chaotic, but in the best possible way. Yeah.
And I'm just doing more social media stuff. I just love creating content and telling stories.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I had the best
Thank you for having us. You're so sweet.
As always, it's a party with you guys. Where can my listeners find your social media, website, whatever you guys want to plug?
Oh, gosh, you can find us everywhere. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Hollyweird Paranormal, and the former, social media website of Twitter, now X, HWP Podcast. We're also on Threads under Hollyweird Paranormal as well. We have a website, hollyweirdparanormal.com. You can read more about myself and Brice and get caught up on past episodes. And we have our merch store and our Patreon page there as well. And you can listen to our podcasts wherever you get podcast picks, on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Perfect. And I'll link that all in the caption of the episode as well.
Yeah.